Is everything okay? Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to our masterclass on continuous code quality. My name is Eloisa. If you didn't know, I'm with the Codacy marketing team and I'm here to introduce our hosts who will be sharing some of their amazing expertise with you today. So here they are. Here we have Hélio. He's our technical solutions manager, and James, our customer success lead. So welcome. And before we start the session, I just want to say everyone here has a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So if you have any questions throughout this entire class, just submit it using the button and we'll get them answered for you. And while some of you may still be joining, I'll let James start with a brief introduction. Go ahead.
Thank you, Eloisa. And hey, everyone, thanks for joining. So just looking through, we can see that we've got a number of current customers here. So hello to everyone who we've spoken to before. But also we have some people who aren't customers, don't seem to have used Codacy before. So I think what I'll do just to kick off is just give a very, very brief introduction of Codacy and what it is exactly that we do, before going in and giving some context as to what the webinar is about today and why we're doing it. So basically, Codacy is a static code analysis platform, and really what we do is help you to standardize your code quality, reduce your technical debt, improve your efficiency, and help to provide some reporting and insights which support that. So last year we had 18,000 companies using Codacy, and we caught over 15 million issues before they're actually merged into our customers' code base. And for most of our customers, Codacy works out the box, like it's very simple to use, integrates directly with your Git provider. We scan your repos, applying some of the rules from the 60 tools we support, over 44 different programming languages. And after a few minutes, you get this declaration directly onto your pull request and all the data in Codacy. But there's a number of extra steps which you can take, which will help to bring your DevSecOps to the next level. And really, this was the purpose of today, to help talk you through what some of these things are. And yeah, just give you a bit of guidance on that.
Elisa, do you mind stop sharing so I can start sharing my screen?
Okay, so let's get started. I'm stopping. Go ahead.
Thanks. A bit like James, I see a lot of familiar names in the list. So, hello. For those who know me, I'm Hélio Rocha, solutions engineer at Codacy. And like James said, we have a set of tools on Codacy that can only run on a client side. And that's what we'll be covering here. We started with a very simple project that probably everybody saw. This is a simple Java library with a Gradle engine behind it, okay? We added that library to Codacy and all clear, no issues, and also no coverage. Although I know as a fact, because I've written it, that there are some issues here. Maybe a bit more exotic, but they exist, okay? Why is this happening? Because I'm not running the client-side tool called Spotbugs, which is one of that Codacy supports, and is responsible for like around 800 patterns, 800 code patterns, with 200 of them being security related. Okay, so during this masterclass, what I'll be doing is showing an example on how to add this client-side tool, this Spotbugs tool, to Codacy, and also how to add coverage reports to Codacy, okay? First of all, what we need to do on the Codacy side, we need to generate an API token. So I can come here, copy this token. By the way, I already generated the token, added to GitHub Actions just for the sake of time, okay? But as you can see, I generated a project API token and added here as a secret to my action secrets, okay? Into my repository secrets as well. On Codacy as well, I need to tell something very simple to Codacy. From now on, analysis will run on the build server and not exclusively on Codacy. This tells Codacy to wait before starting analysis. As you may know, when you make a commit or a pull request, Codacy is notified and starts the analysis. With this flag enabled, Codacy will wait until the pipeline runs and then push the results to Codacy, and then Codacy will analyze with the tools that are missing from the first analysis, okay? With this setup done, I think we can now start, we can go to our IDE. I've chosen VS Code, but you can use whatever you prefer and start working on the pipeline itself, okay? So again, this example is focused on GitHub Actions, but could be for Jenkins, GitLab, Bitbucket action, Bitbucket pipelines, whatever you prefer. In the end, I will make this public, this repository public with examples for each one of these, okay? So let's start with the beginning. In order to have a GitHub Actions workflow, we need to have a folder called GitHub, and inside it should have a folder called workflows, okay? So far, so good, okay? And inside it, I can create a workflow called, for instance, codacy.yaml. Okay, it should be here, and codacy.yaml, as you can see, okay? We should name it something like client-side tools and coverage. And when should this run? Ideally, I think it should run on every commit that you do and on every push that you do. Why? Because that's the only way that you ensure that everything is analyzed, that your coverage is always sent, and you can make good decisions based on it, okay? So we'll decide to push on each branches, even if you're not merging them right now, okay? Right, sorry. And on every pull request, okay? And now the job itself, okay? We'll know it's tool build. We will run this on our beloved Ubuntu latest version. And let's start with the steps, okay?
I think we have a question here, sorry, in the chat.
Sure, no problem.
I think someone just asked, can you check our chat here? GitHub and not .github, someone is asking.
Yeah, it's .github, sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Francois Baya. Let me rename this quickly. Let me first save, then rename. There you go. Probably it will work way better this way. Okay, now that we have the jobs, it will run on Ubuntu latest, and we'll add some steps, okay? The first step is the clone. So we'll use the regular actions. Check out at v2. And then we have a name for this, which is like send, I don't know, client side tools and coverage results. So, okay. Probably you're thinking I'm getting this name out of my head, but I'm just copying from the example that we did in the dry run. Sorry for that. Okay. Now, the interesting part. We should have an environment where we declare our project token here, reading it from the secrets. This is not mandatory. It depends on the way you have your secrets or your environment configured. But for the example purposes, it should be like this. And then the script itself, okay? Again, this is a Gradle script, which means that I need to do something on my pipeline in order to build it. So I'm going to add the dependencies or the build dependencies that my project needs, okay? I'm going to paste them here, okay? They are very straightforward, like installing OpenJDK and Gradle and again, these are project specific, nothing to do with Codacy, okay? And then I'll need to do the rest, the ones that are really Codacy related. So first of all, since we're going to use coverage, we need to generate a Jacoco test report, okay? But Jacoco, by default, doesn't generate the XML files. So we added an action here for Jacoco test report, and we are going to add the flag or the option, sorry, called reports with XML enabled. Whenever we run the Gradle Jacoco test report, it will generate the Jacoco report that we are able to convert to a format that Codacy knows how to ingest, okay? Then, oh, sorry, we need to go and run our Codacy report task, sorry. Basically, this is the exact line. Let me show you from here. Where is our coverage reporter? So this is the exact line that I'm getting from our documentation, okay? With the small difference that is the argument that I'm passing is the exact path to where I know the Jacoco report will be, where the Jacoco report will be generated, okay? And then this is the coverage part, and then we're going to add a big snippet of code, but it's for in order to run the Codacy CLI with spot bugs, okay? Of course that we know that for Codacy, for GitHub Actions, we have an action already for GitHub that can be directly executed, but I wanted to put this as generic as possible because you might not be running on GitHub Actions. So I've chose to use the Docker version of the Codacy CLI execution and a small, description of what we are doing. So we are calling the Docker image for the Codacy CLI with the tool, with the action analyze, with the tool spot bugs, saying that we want to upload the results in the end, explicitly saying the project token. I'm doing this explicitly, but it should usually can get it from the environment, okay? I'm saying that I don't want the build to stop unless I have more than 99,999 issues. And I'm explicitly saying what is the commit UID coming from GitHub SAJ variable, okay? Again, the CLI tool is also able to detect via the pipeline environments what is the commit UID, but I wanted to show you that we have these flags and you can explicitly say this type of things, okay? So the pipeline is defined, is as simple as this. And please forgive me, I'm going to paste again from the beginning because I don't know if I messed up in the tabs and I don't want for us to lose much more time tabbing documents, okay? So git status, we see that we have a new folder, GitHub that we need to add, and we have, sorry, Zoom is on front, okay. Adding the GitHub and git commit -am, adding coverage and client side. Okay, git push, and I need to find my phone because I need to approve, or I can do that on my watch. I need to approve this using my Krypton, okay? So, job done. What's happening now on GitHub? We should be seeing here some actions, and as you see, on our branch called Masterclass, an action was triggered exactly with the things that we defined on the pipeline, okay? This might take some time, so I don't know, 1 minute and so. Eloisa, you have a couple of questions that you wanted to do, right? Or while we wait a bit?
Yeah, so while we wait, I'm gonna post some questions here in our chat, and everyone feel free to join the conversation. First question.
If you're curious, right now you can also see the pipeline behavior running in your window, okay? basically it was the build process, and now the issues, and it's already done. So it took around 1 minute and 20, well, no, 1 minute and 7 seconds. And now when we get back to Codacy and we refresh this page, we see our masterclass. Okay, sorry, of course, it's not ready yet because the analysis is running on a pipeline. And slow internet issues. Checking the commits again. The pipeline ended, Codacy was notified, and now it's running the analysis on the task on the tools that are not spot bugs, the ones that are not client side. Okay, so probably 1 minute more key here. Okay, feel free to answer Louisa questions while we wait a bit. So I thought it would take longer. Kudos to Codacy for being so fast. It was up to standards, a positive commit, because I didn't introduce any issues while I was doing this. But now I'm able to see the coverage that my project has and the 2 issues that I was expecting to find here, okay? And if I come to the description of the file, like we did in the beginning, sorry, just a moment. I think this changed branch.
We actually got a question.
Okay, thanks. From
So,
Vinicius.
yeah, exactly.
Codex is able to validate the security and quality of the GitHub workflows actions file. We have a tool for infrastructure, but we don't have yet a tool for GitHub actions. Funny enough, it's something that we discussed in the beginning of this week. Clear enough, Vinicius? Okay, getting back to the text. Getting back to Codacy UI now, in the file that we know the issues exist, we can see that in this line we are using a null cipher that is not desirable, and we are storing a cipher that sort of ciphertext. Okay, basically 2 issues that were only possible to detect using spot bugs. Okay. Okay, sorry, Lisa, I thought that was another question.
That was me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, this is just a small note again here with the change that we did. Our tests, like we show what was the test here. Sorry. So it was a pretty simple unit test just to show it being covered on Codacy. And as soon as we sent the report, Codacy was able to detect that we pass in these lines of code, and for the issued code, we don't have anything. Okay. And yeah, this is, maybe it was short and sweet, but it's how simple it is to add client-side tools and coverage to Codacy in less than 40 lines of code. Okay. I also wanted to talk a bit about the client-side tools that we have, and I did this nerdy stuff just to show you that we can use an API and the Figlet comment on Linux. But yeah, these are the client-side tools that Codacy has. So C-length tidy that supports C, C++, and Objective-C, that code for Go, static check for Go, align check for Go, FOPA for Objective-C, spot bugs for Java and Scala, and GoSec. All of them have a lot of, well, they're all different, and they are client-side tools for a reason. For instance, spot bugs, and I think it's FOPA, are client-side tools because they require to analyze compiled code. GoSec is a client-side tool because it requires an internet connection, and Codacy pods do not connect to the internet for security reasons, because we don't want to have your code being analyzed in a place where it can connect to the internet. Okay. Most of them are more code security and error prone dedicated tools, but we have one that is like static check that is mostly dedicated to code style. But all in all, those tools will help you a lot if you're using one of these languages, and increase the quality of your code, and will help you reduce your technical debt in the near future. Okay. So questions. We have some from.
Here's one.
Yeah. Is it possible to compile on Codacy server installing toolchain for microcontrollers? No, Codacy does not compile your code. Okay, that's why some of these tools run on the client side in your pipeline. Okay, like in the, let me pull the example again. Like in the example that we created, we build the code here. Well, the test report depends on building the repo. So we compile the code in this step only after you run the Spotbugs tool. Okay. Why do you need Spotbugs as a client side in Java? I thought you just selected. Sorry, Kaushik Patel, I'm not understanding the question. We chose Spotbugs as an example for this because this is a Java repository. If it was a C++ repository, we would go with Clientside, for instance. Okay, but the behavior would be relatively the same: compiling the code, running the tool, uploading the results to Codacy. No, Codacy per se does not run Spotbugs. What it does is you run Spotbugs in your pipeline and upload the results to Codacy. Then Codacy processes the results, and based on your quality gate, will help you blocking or not blocking the PR, for instance. Make sense? Perfect. Cool.
Hey, sorry, we have one question here in the Q&A from Joshua Brown. Is it possible to integrate runtime tools, for example, Valgrind from the client side?
Well, we cannot run client-side tools that are currently not supported on Codacy. Okay. Although we are very community-driven and we love to listen to community requests regarding adding specific tools to Codacy. Okay. Of course, making a request doesn't mean that the tool will be part of the Codacy weaponry, let's call it like that. But we internally discuss the feasibility of adding the tools and if it makes sense, and then if it does, amongst after a well-thought analysis, we add it. Okay, or not, it depends on the if it makes sense or not. Okay. I meant, can we upload the results, not run them? Sorry, Joshua, upload the results from regular Spotbug analysis without running the Codacy CLI tool, is that what you mean? Well, if it is, currently the process to ingest Spotbugs is via running the analysis on the CLI. We have other tools where we accept the direct input from the tool, convert it and send it. But for running Spotbugs, we are doing it like this, okay? And I also believe the dashboard is useful. Perfect. I don't know if we have any more questions.
Another question in the Q&A, Hélio.
Sorry, I only had the chat open because of the share screen, my bad. From Nuno Ribeiro, are there other similar tools like Spotbugs for other languages like C#, Swift, or JavaScript? There are. currently Codacy do not have it because we are relatively comfortable with the tools that we have for analyzing those languages. For instance, for JavaScript, we have a tool, we have ESLint, which is a kind of the standard for performing static code analysis on JavaScript code. But the tools exist. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to run it or to add it to Codacy stack. But if the customers request it, it's something that we can analyze again. Okay. Perfect. Hope I answered the question.
I think we have a new message in the chat. Yeah.
No. Okay, Joshua. So Joshua is asking, sorry if I wasn't clear, if Codacy accepts a specific file format, is it possible to pass the results to Codacy from an arbitrary tool to be displayed on the dashboard? It's a tricky question. We accept a specific format because this is being ingested by our API, and the format is pretty well defined. But we have these tools mapped with an internal library of code patterns. So it's not possible for you to randomly generate, not randomly, of course, but by yourself, by your criteria define a set of issues, compile it or transpile it to the format that can be ingested by Codacy and send it, because it wouldn't produce the proper, well, it wouldn't produce the dashboard that you're expecting to see by doing that. Okay, no problem.
One more question here in the chat.
Yeah, Simon, that question is a bit out of scope, but I can forward it to our product team regarding the update of the tools, okay? I promise I'll do that. But I don't know if you saw, but Simon was asking, when are we planning to update our Son of C# tool? The answer is, I will ask our product team. Sorry for that.
Does anyone else have a question to send us in the Q&A? Okay, one more. So are you going to introduce the concept of cognitive complexity or cyclomatic complexity for some languages?
We have cyclomatic complexity. That's one of the analyses that we do on Codacy. Cognitive complexity, I don't know if it's in the plans, to be honest. I don't think so. But again, it's something that we can take a look, by the way. We already have a dashboard that analyzes the complexity. This example is for JavaScript. And as you can see, we calculate the cyclomatic complexity. Let me pull here an example. This is a corner case, of course, but it's just an example how cyclomatic complexity is being calculated on Codacy, okay? And James shared the link here with the supported languages and tools on the chat if you want to have more details about it.
Thank you for your questions. Does anyone else want to ask anything? We still have a few minutes. Okay, here's one.
I believe so. There was code churn. I don't have an example, but we have some code churn written here, available here. But for some reason, I'm not seeing in this. So I also was caught a bit off guard with that question. But I believe we have a code churn metric at the file level. Okay. But I can look for an example and send it later. Okay. No problem.
We have a couple more questions here. Oh, someone wants us to explain what is Poppulse.
Yeah. James, do you want to take that? I think you're more qualified than me.
Sure. Let me share a link to it as well. So Poppulse is an engineering insights platform which we have created. It's currently in an open beta, but we start charging for it later on in this year. And essentially, like really the driving force behind Pulse was to use the DORA metrics, which I'm sure some of you have heard about. As these metrics have been proven to be the metrics which are most likely to predict performance in terms of the engineering team and business outcomes, essentially. So really the start of this is looking at deployment frequency, the lead time for changes, median time to recover and change failure rate. And then we're looking to build the product out based on these 4 metrics. So really Pulse is a way to look at the efficiency of your teams in a different way to how Codacy kind of works.
Thanks, James. Thank you. There's another question. I think there's a couple more, so let's make sure we read them all. I don't know if I'm saying your name right. I'm sorry, Francois Bayard. We use DH Action Codacy. Can you guys read this one?
Yeah, no problem. Let me share my screen back again. Can you see my browser? I hope so. So I need to search for the chat window because when I shared it disappeared. Okay. So Francois, you're asking, we use GitHub Actions that sends in the static format. Is it possible to filter the result to have only some level of criticality and not all level? Okay. Let me show you an example. This is on Codacy. First of all, visualization-wise, when you're seeing the issues, you can always filter by category and level, okay? But if your concern is regarding the Git flow itself and blocking the PR or not, based on that, you can always define the number of issues that you're allowing to be introduced and on the severity that you want to, that you are willing to accept, okay? And even if you want only to block the PR based on security issues, you can just come here and define based on the security issues, okay? Make sense? Okay, perfect. Yeah. If you need some help, you can always reach out to us via your customer success manager directly to our solutions engineering team or to support@codacy.com, depending on the type of interaction you want to make. But for this, you can always reach out to us, okay? And we have a question also in our Q&A. Are there plans to have more fine-grained control over ignoring false positives? Currently, we're forced to use UI to ignore an individual issue or ignore all sources. So, for example, it depends. Some tools, so Codacy uses a set of open source tools. It's not easy to create homogenic way to ignore issues because we use different tools. Of course, it could be done with something similar, but right now we rely on the UI or in the tool configuration itself for ignoring the issue. One of the issues with allowing an issue to be ignored within the source code itself is that you don't have control of it, right? Your developer can be writing all the code that he wants and just typing / ignore // and that will remove you the power to see if an issue exists and make a decision if it should be ignored or not, okay? Makes sense, Aidan?
Okay, cool. There's another one this time in the chat by Serkan.
I don't know if it makes sense to ask you, but once you run the analysis and results are visible in Codex dashboard, can we automate creation tickets in third-party tools? Yes, you can. So let me give you an example. On Codacy, there are several ways to do this. By the way, if you're using GitHub or whatever, on GitHub, we already have the GitHub checks. But you can also add like a Jira integration, okay? And with this Jira integration, I will not configure it here, but I will show what to do with it. You can come here, expand, and click here. You can create a GitHub issue, and here would show something similar, but for Jira, saying create a Jira ticket for this, okay? Make sense? Also, this feedback is also visible on GitHub, so you are able to interact with it directly in your regular Git flow. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Any more questions?
Two more questions.
In this repo, I don't, but let me see if in my,
so I think this question is only to hosts. So if other attendees can't see it, Kausha is asking, can you show or discuss code duplication example if you have?
No, I don't know if I have branch with duplication here, to be honest, or an example of duplication out of my hand. Unfortunately, no. Let me see if I have here on another quick repo, but I don't think so. Just a moment. No, I don't have, sorry, I don't have any example out of hand with the duplication, but maybe we can send you. Okay.
So a new question from Mark. Yeah.
We have a question from Martin Butt. Hi, Martin. Pleased to see you, man. With regard to the ignoring question, tracking to the places that false positives been confirmed are ignoring either in the code, which makes the code messy, or in the Codacy UI, which doesn't allow any kind of tracking. I think it would be nice if this were stored in the config file. Yeah, that's true. Although in the Codacy config file, you can ignore a file itself or a pattern of files, but not the line of code, which you're absolutely right. But to be honest, I think that the tracking part is more important. This is a personal opinion right now. The tracking part is more important than the way you ignore it, because it allows you some auditing regarding who ignored it or not. But it's a discussion that we're having internally right now about that. Don't know the outcome yet.
Is it worth also just showing where in the UI you can keep track of the issues that have been ignored?
I don't have ignored issues here, but so it should. When I ignore the issue, I should reanalyze the latest commit in order to. Should be reanalyzing now, as you can see. Okay. The thing, sorry, just a moment. The thing is that the issue was not introduced in this specific commit. It was only in this specific commit we run the CLI tool that detected and show it within the repo, but was not introduced on this specific commit, so it will not be visible here, the ignored issue. Okay. Either way,
if we can just show where they go, right? So in the
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm just waiting for it to finish because I wanted to show here as well. But in the issues tab, since it's analyzing. In the meantime, we had a question from Simon Gasparella. Can we integrate the result of gcov and lcov for C language run locally in reports? Yes. Coverage is, let me show you. We have a set of examples. So our coverage reporter tool supports a lot of different reports. And as you can see here for C, I think we have lcov. Yeah, we support the lcov format. Yes, for C. We can, Simon, can you see my screen? I believe so. Yeah, okay. So as you can see, we support the lcov.info format, whatever is the language, and then process it with our reporter tool, just like this. Okay. Thanks.
Questions in the chat.
Yeah. We use generated equals an hash code method by IntelliJ IDEA for GTO classes. Codacy, everyone is reading, so Codacy measures by cyclomatic complexity for these methods. It is possible to disable measuring of cyclomatic complexity for some methods. Not for some metrics, but for some metrics, yes, but not for some specific parts of the file. You can ignore, for instance, the complexity using the Codacy configuration file, but not for some parts of the file. But yeah, but I see where you're coming. But if this is the fully file generated, or it's just a part of it? Simon asking if you can see the ignored files. Let me see if the now is already ended. So you should be able to see the issues. Yeah, so the issue disappeared from here, right? And you should be able to see here the ignored issues by James.
Exactly. So if you click on the arrow next to current issues.
Exactly. Sorry.
Yeah.
You see ignored issues. Makes sense to you, Simon or Simon? No, on this specific example, it's for the full list of issues because we are under the issues tab, okay? Current issues and then ignored issues, but for the full repo. They were only ignored once. Well, they are only introduced once, right? Because an issue on Codacy, it's, I see your point, but an issue on Codacy is a combination of what's the issue, the line of code and the file, right? Maybe what you're talking about is not ignoring the issue, but disabling the pattern. By disabling the pattern, you will turn off all the issues of this type. Make sense? Yeah, exactly. So basically the ignore issue applies to that specific issue, not for the pattern. In order to ignore all, it should be disable the pattern. Okay. Perfect.
Just one more Q&A.
Okay. In the screen for configuring the rules for the repo, we can either use the UI or there's an option to pick up a configuration file. yeah, there. Let me give you an example with another repo that we have here. So for I have a node repo here, so JavaScript based with the links, and where's the link? Here it is. As you can see, I'm using a configuration file instead of the tool pattern list. Okay. Currently, there's no way to extract the current settings to a valid config file. No, there is not for now. What we have here is something that it's in beta stage, which is Codex Standards across organization. So it doesn't work with the configuration file, but it works with something like, you configure the code standard that you want to define. And for all repos that you add or that you have in this organization that has, for instance, ESLint, all the code patterns that you enabled or disabled will be the same across the repos in the organization. Make sense? That's it. Simon asked, can you consider or spot an issue as a magic number in the code? It depends on the language. There are languages where we are able to detect magic numbers, magic strings. You said C. I don't know on the top of my head if we have that pattern, but on our labs, codacy.org, we have Codacy available tools and code patterns, and you can see all the tools that we currently have, and you can check. This is a very embryonic tool, by the way. It belongs on our labs part, but you can see all the code patterns that we have available for analysis, and probably try to find. CBPGX doesn't find it. Okay. But have you tried with the C-Lang Tidy or the other ones? Either way, we can search on the, not yet, okay. So you can try any of our other tools, or we can even take a look and see if the other tools have that for magic numbers, but not from the top of my head. Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay, Simon, it's a deal. Okay. Any other questions? Maybe not.
Okay, so are we done with questions today? Just a few more seconds, but I think we're done with questions. If you still want to submit anything, you can. Okay, I guess not. So thank you, Hélio, and thank you, James, for this. And thanks everyone who's here for attending. Oh, here's one more question, actually, one more in the Q&A. We still have time for that.
I can answer that. Thomas, it's having multiple sessions in the org standards is something which we'd like to do this year, but it's not something we're expecting to be done in probably at least the first half of this year. So we're trying to focus much more on organization-wide reporting, improving coverage, as well as some other items that we'll pick up in the coming months, but it is still in the plans for this year.
Cool. So last chance to ask any questions. Here's one.
So Kushal is asking if we'll do better coverage reports. You know, I think what I'd say, Kushal, is I think it really depends what you mean by better, right? You know, we're working on our coverage at the moment. We're really focusing on first improving the ease of adding coverage, and we're looking into ways where we might improve some of the messaging and the insights we give around the coverage. So you mean the main graphs? It's possible that something like this would be included in the reporting project, but I think that's to be confirmed. But it's really not our plan to kind of copy what CodeGov are doing or anything like that. So yeah. Cool. I think we're good, Eloisa.
Yeah, well, one more question I think emerged here in the chat. Oh, maybe it's not a question. Okay. So yeah, I think we're ready to finish. I mean, a lot of questions today, a lot of feedback. This was great. So thank you, everyone. And I'd like to thank again Hélio and James for all their time and for answering all of this. And this was our first Code Quality Masterclass. We hope you enjoyed it. So just so you know, we will share a recording of the session very soon in the next few days. And before you leave, I would just ask you one thing before you leave this webinar, and that is please give us your ideas for our next masterclass. So if you can fill out this very, very short survey that will pop up on your screen after we're done here, it will just ask you, what would you like to learn next? And this will really help us to cater a future webinar to your needs. And also, let's keep the conversation going in our community. If you have anything else you want to ask or add to this, you can go to community. I'm going to actually post a link here, community.codacy.com. And we'll be there. And many other developers are there. It's our code quality community. I don't know if you've been there. So we can keep talking there, keep asking questions if you like. And I think that's it. We did get, oh, okay. Thank you. We already got, I think, a suggestion. That's awesome. If you could write that in the survey would be great as well, so we can really keep track. And I think that's it. Goodbye, everyone.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.